I had never heard of love languages until I went to marriage counseling in 2023. That's another topic for another day. But I learned through the marriage counseling, through taking that test, that my love language is also physical touch. And so like it resonated with me. It made a ton of sense. Like after you hear it and after me, looking at my past relationships and looking at various things, it was like, oh shit, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, since then, I have seen a ton of posts on social media, and a lot of times, and this is not to call out all women, but there's a lot of women online who talk shit because, quite frankly, a lot of men's love language turns out to be physical touch. And so there's a lot of women, rightfully so, who are like, yo, I don't believe these niggas. Like, y'all are just trying to get somebody to cuddle up with you so y'all can fuck. Like, we see through your bullshit. Y'all ain't shit and y'all are lying about this. But quite frankly, I do think that, if there was a way to, do the knowledge and, get a whole bunch of men to test to figure out what their love language is, I think the majority of men, or let me say this, when you take all of the, various love languages and how, one receives love, if you were to have all the men take the test, I think the physical touch would be the leading one as opposed to all the rest. And I think that there's multiple ways to kind of look into this and dissect this. And like one of them is from a young age, men do become touch deprived. And what I mean by that is like, we're critical people when you baby your son. Kid, you have a young boy, he's a kid, he trips, falls, scrapes his knee, starts crying, and you tell him, hey, stop crying, get up. Be a man, get up, stop crying. Man, that don't even hurt that much, get up. As opposed to if it's your daughter who the same thing happened, you would pick her up, you would comfort her, you would make sure she's okay. Oh, it's okay, come here, it's okay. You would use physical touch to comfort her and tell her it's okay, but you will tell that boy, stop crying, get up and be a man. A lot of men then, they do grow up and they don't get hugged. And it only then makes sense that then when you become an adult, you desire being hugged by your partner, because that physical touch is something that you didn't get as you were growing up. After going through marriage counseling, it blew me away how so much of who we are as humans and as adults, it all goes back to our childhood. It's a whole bunch of shit that as our brains were developing and as we were kind of navigating this world that we did not quite understand, it was all these factors outside of our understanding that caused us to become the people that we are. And a lot of people don't realize that. It all goes back to our childhood traumas and just our childhood environments, if you will. Another thing, and I know this is probably going to be a little risque to say, but I think that's one of the reasons why there are some men who constantly cheat on their partners. Many men are unaware that they grew up touch deprived. The great majority of them don't have this actual knowledge. So they get into relationships and then again, being manly, we don't hug, we don't cuddle, that's what you're taught since you're, very youngin'. And so you kind of grow up and you may be like that, maybe when you're flirting with a girl, like Deontay say, yo, where my hug? We all know that dude, see a girl he ain't seen in a while, yo, where my hug? But typically when they're in a relationship, that hugging, that cuddling for some men go away because again, they don't believe in, or they're too manly to, be soft and gentle and all that stuff with hugging. And then, typically in long-standing relationships, a lot of times one of the things that tend to happen is that the sex life is not as active, or the sex life gets repetitive, it kind of gets boring, kind of becomes more of a chore than something that's passionate. And then so that touch-deprived man who doesn't understand the emotions of, what he's lacking inside, then goes and finds someone else to touch him. So they could, get that dopamine rush and go back to feeling desired and appreciated and wanted, Also, I talk often about how I think the majority of men grow up and they grow up to not be emotionally intelligent. And again, a lot of that is because going back to young boys when they're raised, we teach young boys swallow your emotions. And then when they're 18, they're released in the world and people are like, hey, why do you only know how to process anger as an emotion? And it's like, yeah, they were never given the tools to learn how to process any of the other emotion. They were always told to just swallow, swallow, swallow all of that emotion, swallow all of that, be stoic, swallow it. And yeah, that emotion goes somewhere. And quite frankly, I mean, that's probably, there's other factors at play, but that's probably one of the reasons why men are the most violent creatures on earth. There's the law of conservation of energy in physics that says energy never actually disappears. It just constantly shifts outfits, moving between thermal, kinetic, electrical, and chemical forms. And I believe emotions are energy. And if you keep that shit bottled up, it's going to express itself in one way or another. And some men, it kind of comes out as anger. Some men, it comes out with, over sex drive, just being hypersexual. And then some men continue to drink and smoke weed and do different things to numb the emotion, because that, again, is what we have been taught since we were very young, is don't be emotional. Men are to be stoic, keep all that shit bottled up. And eventually, if you can't physically, emotionally do it anymore, you find something to help you numb the pain, if you will. Now, of course, on the flip side of it, I do think that there's some men who, don't know shit about this. I think women are correct that, there are some men who are using it as an excuse to cuddle up with a woman and, try to get some ass. But always like to look at those as more so the outliers, and those outliers who are pieces of shit, they're going to lie. They're lying regardless. So, we shouldn't really kind of lump them into this study, if you will, of the men who are sleep or touch deprived, because I think that is a reality that the great majority of men grow up in that type of environment, and that kind of makes sense why men grow up and they need that physical touch. That's their love language. That's what they've been depriving since they were a kid, and that's what they look for in their partner. So yeah, I don't know. At the end of the day, I think some of y'all niggas need therapy. Just plain and simple. Just start going to therapy. It'll help you a lot, I promise.